Hello again, this is Mike, and I'm the Sports History Collector. Today we continue with the Athletes at War series, World War II, Episode 17, featuring a great Yankee, Marine, and American, the late great Hank Bauer. Please stay tuned to the very end, as I have a very special guest to talk about Hank. Hank played for 14 seasons, from 1948 to 1959 with the Yankees, and from 1960 to 1962 with the Kansas City Athletics, amassing a .277 lifetime average with 164 home runs and 703 RBIs. In his 12 years with New York, the Yankees went to 9 World Series, and with Hank's help, they were able to win 7 championships. His last World Series with the Yankees in 1958, Hank hit .323 with 4 home runs, which helped the Yankees get revenge over the Milwaukee Braves, the team that had beat the Yankees in the series the year before. After Hank retired, he became a manager for the Kansas City Athletics from 1962 to 63, and also 1969 when they were in Oakland. But it was with Baltimore where he excelled, from 1964 through 1968, where he won Manager of the Year in 64 and 66, and guided the Orioles to their first World Series victory with a sweep over the Dodgers in 1966. Hank was considered a great teammate and was good friends with all the Yankees, especially Mickey Mantle. Hank was there to say goodbye to Mickey at the very end and was also a pallbearer at Mickey's funeral. With all of his success, Hank's greatest moments did not occur on the ball field, but on the battlefield. Before his baseball fame, Bauer served in the Marine Corps during World War II and from 1942 to 1945. Just 1 month after December 7, 1941 attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii by Japan, Bauer enlisted. Following basic training at Mare Island, California, he volunteered to join the elite Marine Raiders. After successfully completing the grueling physical and mental entrance requirements, he was assigned to the 4th Raider Battalion, which in August 1942 deployed to Guadalcanal in the Southwest Pacific. He was there until the spring of 1943. After surviving attacks by the Japanese and a bout of malaria, Bauer next participated in the landing at Imarau in the southeastern portion of the St. Matthias Islands in March 1944. That was followed by the New Georgia Campaign in June 1944 and the Battle of Guam in July of 1944. In the battle for Guam, Bauer was wounded in the back by enemy shrapnel. During that battle, he received a Bronze Star for valor. Next came the Battle of Okinawa in April 1945. By this time, Bauer, a sergeant, led a platoon in battle. Most of his platoon was killed. Bauer and 5 others made it out alive, but Bauer was wounded in the thigh by enemy artillery fire. He also received a 2nd Bronze Star during that battle. The wounds he received on Okinawa were severe enough for him to be sent back to the United States to recuperate. Bauer, who wanted to play professional baseball, thought the wounds would end his dream. Bauer was fortunate in his recovery and went on to play baseball. His brother Herman was not so fortunate. Herman Bauer was killed in action in France with the 3rd Armored Division on July 12, 1944. Hank Bauer, we thank you for your service, and we thank Herman Bauer for giving the ultimate sacrifice for his country. And now for some tidbits. I would be remiss when talking about Hank Bauer if I didn't bring up the famous Copacabana incident. In 1957, Hank, Mickey, Whitey, Yogi, and several other players had taken Billy Martin and all the wives out to celebrate Billy's birthday at the famous Copacabana to see Sammy Davis Jr. Also in attendance that night were a couple of drunk bowling teams. One thing led to another, and a brawl took place at the back of the club. In the aftermath, Billy was traded, Whitey and Yogi were benched, and Hank was sued by a bowler that got knocked out, which was dismissed in court. Fast forward to June of 2020 and an interview of Joe Silvestri, a one-time bouncer at the club. Turns out Joe was off that night but was in attendance to see Sammy Davis Jr., something the employees were not supposed to do on their time off. Anyway, when the brawl began, Joe jumped up from his table to help the bouncer on duty, and it was Joe that knocked out the bowler with one punch. Hank was unfortunate enough to be one of the only 2 people in the club wearing a brown suit. The other was Joe Silvestri, and the bowler identified Hank by his suit. Another great baseball story, and one that unfortunately and wrongly got Billy Martin traded. Today, I have for you 3 signed items by Mr. Bauer. The first 2 are signed sports magazines from 1957 and 1959. Both are signed boldly in blue Sharpie, and both are in really good shape. Last but definitely not least, I have a 1952 Bowman signed by Hank in vintage blue ballpoint pen. The card is a little off-center to the left, right to left, but the beautiful colors and great home run pose more than make up for it. One thing about Hank's signature is he was always very consistent. Well, that concludes today's episode featuring Hank Bauer. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you soon.
Keep up your spirit, keep up your faith, baby. I am counting on you. You know what you've got to do. Fight the good fight, everybody. Every minute, every day. Fight the good fight, everybody. It's your only
One of the stories that everybody wants to know about, it seems like, is the old Copacabana incident. It was in 1957. It was Billy's birthday, so it had to be in May. And me and Whitey gave him a birthday party, and we invited Yogi and his wife Carmen, Hank Bauer and his wife Charlene, me and Merlin, and Whitey and his wife Joni, a couple more of the Yankees and their wives. And we took them all down to Denny's Hideaway, which was an old favorite place of mine and Billy's, and we had a couple of drinks down there, and then some steaks or something. Then we had a few more drinks. Anyway, by the time it was getting around 10 o'clock, about the 10 o'clock show at the Copa was getting ready to start, so we said, why don't we go down and catch Sammy Davis, So we all go down there, and they give us a big table, in the middle of the room. And we had a couple of drinks, I guess, there. And about that time, here come two bowling teams in that had both won their divisions in the bowling alley, something, and they was all feeling pretty good, too. Anyway, they got to talking kind of loud and getting on to Sammy or something, and I think it might have been Hank said, hey, come on, you guys, cool it a little bit. We got our wives here, and you're embarrassing them, Well, one thing led to another, and somebody said, well, just meet us around here at the corner. Of course, you don't have to tell Billy but once, and Hank also. So next thing I know, the cloakroom was full of people, and everybody's swinging and throwing punches and everything. Next thing, and then there's a guy laying right at my feet. I'm in the back end of the thing there, and I'm just standing there. I'm watching everything. I never did hit anybody or anything. I didn't get hit or anything. But somebody had hit a guy because he's laying at my feet, and I thought it was Billy at first, and I picked his head up, and I saw it wasn't Billy, so I dropped it back down. But anyway, the next day when we went to the ballpark, the headlines was Yankees in Copa fight and all that, Billy Martin, this and that. Just as soon as we got to the ballpark the next day, Billy Martin started packing his bags in the clubhouse. I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm gone. I said, George Weiss just looking for a chance to get rid of me anyway, And he had warned us a few times about missing planes and trains and stuff like that. And sure enough, later on that year, we go to Kansas City, and Billy got traded. But before that happened, I'll tell you, one of the funniest parts of the whole thing was one of the guys, I guess the guy that got hit so hard, sued Hank Bauer for I don't know how much. But anyway, we all had to go to court. And I'd never been in court before. And in fact, I think that's the only time I've ever been on a witness stand in my life. They asked Hank questions and Whitey questions and Billy questions and everything. And they finally called me up to the witness stand. And I was sitting there, and the judge looks over at me and he said, Mr. Mantle, said, do you have gum in your mouth? I said, yes, sir. I was scared to death, He said, well, would you do something with it? So I took it out of my mouth. I don't know what to do, I said, I just stuck it under the chair there, So he said, well, would you tell us what happened? I said, well, I don't know, Your Honor. I was kind of in the background there. I was standing in the back, and I see this guy laying at my feet, and I picked him up, and I looked at him. It looked like Roy Rogers rode through there on Trigger, and Trigger kicked him in the face. And everybody got a big kick out of that, and the judge says, case dismissed.